welcome to another exciting episode of the Stash Report from the Stash Project. Today is the 26th of August, 2016, and man, oh man, you need to go grab a beverage of your choice, be it an adult one or just a, it ain't quite 5 o'clock one, depending on where you happen to be watching this at. Because we got a lot to talk about. We have the regular just release stuff from this week, which there was a fair amount, both domestically and overseas. And then, of course, we're going to cover all of the stuff that I did, that little cell phone video at the beginning of the week about the All Japan Toy and Hobby Show, or actually I believe it's Model and Hobby Show. And from here on out, we're just going to call it the All Japan Hobby Show because that's way, for the most part, it seems to be written out online, AJHS. So that's going to be coming up at the end of September. The last week in September will be that in Tokyo. And when that actually takes place, I imagine we will have more pictures to share beyond what we're going to be showing here. Because a lot of this stuff is going to be line drawings, it's going to be pictures of real cars, with the exception of the Tamiya NSX, which you'll see here in a little bit. And, so we'll have a better idea, more complete idea as far as some of these other kits coming up. So keep that, pencil that in. You won't watch that episode. That'll either be the last episode of September or the first episode of October, depending on how quickly we can get photos from various people on that. So I suppose we should do kit announcements first that are outside of what we're actually talking about here. One thing is that the Dodge Fever wheel stander, the venerable IMC Dodge A100 pickup that can be built either as a regular pickup or, of course, as a drag exhibition vehicle, because there wasn't really a dragster per se. They have this new Dodge Fever livery for it rather than the old Little Red Wagon thing that's been running around with. That's still going to be in a Lindbergh box, but that's been delayed until September, which at this point, when you're watching this, like, who, but it'll be probably in the middle, late September. And then the other kit announcements that we have are for October. B-Max, with an official release date on their 1988 Honda Civic EF3 Group A race car. This is going to have a Motul livery, and it's going to be what they're calling a two-in-one. The Chinese not understanding the concept in a total sense, as it will just have the available liveries for either the 1988 season or the 1989 season. I don't believe there are actually any parts interchange here as far as any new parts. It is literally just going to be new decals, and the decals will be in there to build either the 89 or the 88 or the 89 season. You should probably know going in that unless something gets fixed here in the course of the next month or so, that the decals for the 88 season are incorrect. If you want to purchase this kit and then make the correct car, I issue you over to SK Decals on Facebook, literally S.K. Decals on Facebook. And he is making the correct 88 and 89 liveries. I'm not sure if the 89 liveries are also wrong. I haven't talked to him about that, but I know the 88s are at this point, at least for the box art that they're still showing. So, if you want the real things, you're going to have to get some supplementals there. The striping is not quite correct, color-wise or size-wise. And then on November, we're announcing November kits already outside of the hobby show stuff here. And that is going to be Fujimi's little, announcement for the fourth quarter. All of these kits are for November. It would not surprise me if one of them runs later, but they're going to be reissuing their Nissan Skyline R31 GTM, which is, the level below the highest level Skyline you could get at the time, because GTS would have been the high. As far as I know, I also have GTM GTS. If it's backwards, let me know, but I think that's the GTM is the next to the top tier there. And this is going to have a Tommy Kira tie-in as far as the tuner. They've done a bunch of Tommy Kira stuff over the years. They've done a couple of Subarus. They've done at least one Mitsubishi Evo. I think it was the Evo 7. There's been a couple of different Skylines that are with that as well. So it's a kit they've done in the past. It'll be interesting to see if they bring back more of these Tommy kits, because I would like to get the Mitsubishi one. I have the Subaru one. I managed to find the Subaru one for a halfway decent price. Somebody was getting rid of it. It was like a person-to-person sale rather than eBay. But the R33, and well, the R31 that they're reissuing was really hard to find, but the R33 is kind of pricey, and the Mitsubishi, if you can find one, is really pricey. It'd be interesting to see if they have sort of renewed their licensing with Tomicara, or if that's just going to be a one-off. They're also going to be reissuing their Mercedes-Benz E430 Avantgarde. People who don't know, in the late 90s, early 2000s, they did a series of E-Class Mercedes, a 230, I want to say, a 230, a 340, and then a 430. There were several little minor trim variations of those. Like there's just a basic 240, and then there's a 320 Avantgarde, and there's a 320 Sport, there's a 430 Avantgarde, and there's also an E55 AMG. There's a lot of critiquing of this kit and the fact that the front and rear fascias really aren't particularly good facsimiles of the real car, and that is true. But if you want an E-Class Mercedes, it's also the only game in town. And I personally will be getting one of the E430s, even knowing what I'm getting into, just because I have a couple of the E-Class Mercedes as it is, and the E430 is the hardest one to find for some reason. I don't know why, if it was the limited production run or something in the past, but you can't find them, and if you do, they're like $80, which is ridiculous to pay for an $18 curbside kit. So back at $17, I'll pick one up. And then there, finally, we had talked about this. We had just discussed this recently. I don't remember. I'm pretty sure we've done it on the show, but I know personally with friends I've just discussed this. That wonder what Fujima's going to do for the fourth quarter. And I said, well, the only new tools that I'm aware of. Now I realize I'm not aware of everything, but I'm aware of are the AMG GT3 car that they've talked about making, because they would need to do that kit to keep the Good Smile Racing series going. The anime graphic card they did is there are a couple of Porsches in that, the Porsche 911 GT3R, but those weren't really technically race cars. Now, they did do a couple of race cars as that kit, but the Good Smile Racing things were just like presentation cars. They weren't legitimately graphicked up to be real race cars. And then the team moved to Z3, or Z4s. And they did 8 or 9, I'd have to literally look at the list and count, but they did at least 8 Z4s over the course of 2011 to 2014. And then in 2015, the team went to SLS AMGs and ran that last season. Well, this season they stayed with Mercedes-Benz, and now they're in the AMG GT3 car. So they need to kind of make the kit in order to keep the series going, and they also do sponsor the car in real life as far as the actual race car. They are associate sponsor of it, so you can definitely see where continuing it would be in their interest, just because why else sponsor the car. But the other new toolkit that had been floating around from last year's Wonderfest, which of course that puts it like the July of last year, so it's going to be almost 18 months before this kit comes out, is the 2015 Toyota Alphard van series that we're supposed to start as part of their next car Snap-Tight line. And there's going to be 2 versions of that, just regular Toyota Alphard, and then what is known as a Velfire. And the Velfire is sort of like a sportier, aimed at a younger market, but you're still buying a full-size van kind of thing. And what they announced for November is the 2015 Toyota Velfire van. I suppose the Alphard will be in the first quarter next year. Maybe they won't make just a basic one. I'm sure they will. But it's really uniquely tooled, and I didn't think to grab a picture of the tooling. It was on Twitter. So if you follow our Twitter account at the Stash Project, you'll see I retweeted that. The entire front end is a separate piece. You see the body shell of the van, where the front bumpers and front fascia and the hood and everything will be, is just sort of a block of plastic with a bunch of holes in it. Remember, it's a Snap-Tight kit, so the holes are kind of bigger than you would expect them to be. But that is so they can make the Velfire and the Alphard, which the regular Alphard has a front end that sort of has the Toyota Crown Grille, the great big Keystone Grille, and the Alphard is like the Keystone Grille on steroids with fog lights and stuff like that. The way they tooled this up, and it's pretty unique because I don't believe I've seen another kit tooled this way other than maybe the 1972 X bodies that AMT did way back in the day. If you have a 1972 Oldsmobile or excuse me, a 1972 Chevy Nova kit, the one that's the old pro dragster, but you could also build it as a regular street car. You'll remember, if you've ever built the thing, it's somewhat of a little bit of a pain in the ass because the front fenders are separate. And the whole front clip, basically, is not attached to the model in the way a traditional body would be molded, because that car was also run as a Pontiac Ventura, and running the fenders off meant that they could run both of them at the same time without screwing the tooling up. And then the Ventura tooling sort of seems to evaporate over time, because you can only seem to get the Nova anymore. But this has that same principle, where there's a great big chunk of it to plug into, because obviously it's a curbside model kit. But the entire Velfire, I keep saying Veilside because Veilside is a tuner thing, Velfire, the whole Velfire front end, which is a trim level, not a tuning house, and the Alfred front end are being molded as separate pieces that will attach to the body shell. That way they could run one body shell and do two front ends without having to run a whole nother tool for a whole nother body. So that's kind of a unique, and we'll see if it's innovative or not when the actual kit comes out, because it looks kind of chunky and clunky in the test shot that the van itself doesn't seem to have in real life. But it was a really an honest-to-God first-round test shot, so we'll see if it looks any better in the end. Hopefully it does. But like I said, the whole front end's gonna be separate, and that'll be kind of interesting. So November, if you're into Toyota vans, Toyota full-size vans, Fujimi did do a Toyota Alphard from the previous incarnation from like 2008 or so. And they also did, of course, the Nissan Elgrand, which is the full-size Nissan van. So you can have a nice little collection of full-size Toyota vans, or full-size Japanese vans, rather, if you so chose. And we're going to go real quick into the kit releases for this week, because I want to spend the majority of the time here doing the All Japan Hobby Show and something else. So on the domestic side of things this week, almost all of the AMT stuff that we were expecting for August and the last of the July kits have come in. The last of the July kits was this. This is the 1964 Plymouth Belvedere Superstock, run as Eric Elfstrand's Lawman. This kit, somebody showed me a picture of it. They found it at Hobby Lobby, and the Hobby Lobby price is $39.99. Now you may go, oh my God, $40, and I hear people complaining already. Use a 40% off coupon, obviously, and it takes the price back down to like $24, which, considering the fact you don't have to pay shipping, is cheaper than you can get it pretty much anywhere else, because the Auto World store, which is Round 2's retail arm, sort of like Tower Hobbies is Revell's, they're saying $26.99, and then, of course, you have to pay for shipping. So what's so great about this that's worth that much money? Well, obviously you got new decals here and all that stuff, but pretty much the entire bottom half of this car is brand new, other than the chassis plate itself. We discussed this months ago when this kit was finally green-lighted and was going to come out for sure in some point in the first half of 2016. Didn't quite make the first half, but close enough. And that is that the original Lindbergh kits, because this is not an AMT annual, this is a Lindbergh kit in an AMT box. The original Lindbergh kits were not designed to interchange. You'll recall there's a 64 Dodge 330 Super Sport and there's a 64 Plymouth Belvedere. Those tools, when done by the Craft House Lindbergh era people, were not designed to intermingle. The Belvedere was a NASCAR kit and the Dodge was a drag kit. And then, of course, there are factory stock versions of both. But throughout their history, they've always been either a NASCAR kit or a drag kit. If you go look at your drag kit, Lindbergh kits, they're all Dodges because that's what they did. And then, the Richard Petty version, I think there's one more in there someplace, plus the factory stock version, they're Plymouth Belvederes. So because these two molds don't interchange whatsoever, AMT, or via Round 2, had to go back and basically retool an entirely new suspension, wheels, and everything, because they couldn't just take the drag suspension parts out of the Dodge 330 kit and put it into the Plymouth kit, because nothing would match up, because those, the tools don't interchange, and therefore none of the suspension pieces will fit the Plymouth Belvedere's chassis plate. So you have all new suspension, front and back, and there's, supposedly gives it a more improved drag stance. I don't know. I have a couple, literally two, of the Dodge Super Sport drag cars. I've never built them. They're really, at this point, the only 2 drag cars I even own anymore. And one of them I won through our club's kit raffle, so it's not like I bought them. And I have a couple of the Street Dodge 330s, and I don't have any more Belvederes at all. I had the Belvedere NASCAR race version, the NASCAR Richard Petty version, and I ended up selling it or trading it off for something else. So it's new decals, new suspension, new wheels, new pretty much everything underneath the car is brand new. So you're paying sort of a new tool price for it. I mean, it's not necessarily, the I guess $26.99 is about a new tool price even for a Revell kit. Nobody's paying that much if you know where to shop, but MSRP, that's where they're at right now. So that's why you're paying a little bit more for it. You're getting a bunch of new stuff, and it's taken literally probably almost 6 years since this kit was announced over at Lindbergh, and then somebody who announced it over at Lindbergh probably went, we can't actually do this kit without retooling the entire suspension. So I know a lot of drag people have been waiting on that for a long time. Some people have probably forgotten all about it, but it's out there now. Go find it at your local retailer, eBay, or whatever. Also out of AMT this week, and this is going to be July stuff. This is the Lucinda Lewis version of the 57 Corvette convertible. It's the same as always as far as what the 57 Corvette is. I mean, I think the last time the 57 Corvette was actually out might have been in the collector pack that had like the 53 and the 67 or 63, whatever it is that AMT did. The Gasser version has been out since then, but not the just factory street stock one. You'll see there's a molded in white sticker on this. There's also going to be a molded in aqua version, but that one does not appear to actually have made it out yet. And then lastly, for the month of July out of AMT is the new 2016 Chevrolet Camaro SS Snap Tight Kit. I want to stress the snap tight part as much as I possibly can, because I don't want to see people on Facebook and forums complaining about the fact this kit doesn't have an engine and it's a curbside chassis. It is a snap tight. It's a level 1 snap tight. It's designed for your kids. If you wait until next month and you buy the full detail kit, because the full detail kit is a September release, letting you know that a little early before our September recap show. If you buy this kit now and just hang on to it for another 4 weeks or so, and then you can go buy your glue kit, you and your kid can build the same model kit essentially, and they're probably going to beat you, hands down, because this thing only has about 35, 40 parts in it. Plus, let's face it, adult builders are slowpokes, because we just have lost that entire build like a child thing. We just can't do it anymore. We have too many seams to sand and things to fill and body finish to be perfect and all that stuff. But this kit, as it stands, coming out of AMT, is a snap tight kit. It is molded in garnet red, despite the silver box art, despite the fact that it was once said at one point that it was going to be molded in silver, because this became an argument online recently with me and another person. It also said at one point it's going to be molded in black. And it's not that either, and I'm not going to stand around here and go, oh, where's my molded in black kit? Because, well, things change, and yeah, it said molded in silver at one point. But it's molded in garnet red. Now, people will say, well, why isn't it red on the box? Because the glue kits are also going to be molded in red or molded in white. It's going to be your choice. And there's also going to be a pre-painted one coming down the line some point towards Christmas. If they all had the same box art, I don't trust that the morons on Facebook and forums, and that, of course, doesn't cover you beautiful people who watch this video, but the people, you know who they are. You watch them and cringe at them just as much as I do. We'll automatically assume that this will be molded in silver, not red, even though it's going to have a giant sticker on the box that says molded in garnet red. That's not on that box. That's just sort of a stock photo. But if you had this one molded in red, and the glue kits, or this one in a red box art car, and the glue kits in a red box art car, how many people are going to buy that snap tight kit accidentally because they are going to go, ooh, Camaro, and run up to the cash register and leave the building without actually looking at the Snap It logo on there? Because don't act like it won't. There are people to this day, complaining about the fact that those showroom replica kits that AMT did in 2008, 2009, 2010 for the Corvettes are curbsides. Because they didn't know. They should say somewhere on the box they're curbsides. because these people also don't realize that even though it's been going on for 9 years now, there's a parts layout on the bottom of every AMT box. Every box has this on the bottom. Every bleeping box, every single one, has the parts layout on the bottom ever since round 2 took over. Every effing one of them. Don't tell me yours doesn't, because you're a lying sack of you-know-what. Or you have an older version, not since round 2 took over in 2008. I know that seemed aggressive, but it just drives me crazy. It drives it literally 2 weeks ago. So somebody buy one of those showroom replica Challengers and then complain that it didn't have an engine. That kit came out 7 years ago. How do you not know it doesn't have an engine by now? I mean, seriously, you're going online to complain about the fact that it has no engine, so you obviously are online. It's not like you were not online and you just found this random thing out. Oh my God, it has no engine. It just is. Overseas, Hasegawa's last two reissues for the month are out. This is the Lamborghini Miura P400 Super Veloce, the chassis 4846 full restoration. Now, this kit does not have any new parts in it that represents the actual sort of one-off nature of this car. This car was the original Super Veloce show car for the Geneva Auto Show and then subsequent auto shows after that. I'm not sure where it sat or where it lingered, but Lamborghini has a new restoration arm to restore their classic Lamborghinis, and this is the first result that they've come up with, is this restoration of this Miura that is a show car. So I'm sure that probably Lamborghini had it the whole time, and they just dug it out of a closet someplace, basically. But other than being molded in this sort of jade green that you see the real car on the box here painted in, that's it. Other than that, it's just the same Miura as always. It's not a bad kit, Miura. Well, there really isn't another Miura kit out there in reality, but it's a good kit. It's actually a really nice kit. Not quite a full detail engine, but you get more of an engine than you do in 95% of the other Hasegawa kits that are out there. And, the regular Miura, as far as I know, is still in the catalog. If you want to pick this one up, I don't think it might be $1 or $2 more for the molded plastic, but I don't think it's any more than the actual regular, Miura that's in the catalog cost. So just a fun little reissue for Hasegawa to get out there. It's another way to, expand that tooling and have it pay out, a little more, what am I trying to think of? The words there, and it's going, and I'm babbling in a circle here. The amortization of the tooling, basically every time you run the tool for another kit, the tooling costs a little bit less per kit. So that's out there. And then this is a reissue, of course, of their Lancia 37 rally car that's done as the Griffon team. This was run in the, I don't think I wrote it down, did I? I read it yesterday, and then I didn't write it down. But it was run in the last rally for the year by a privateer team, finished 4th overall in the San Remo. That's what it is, the San Remo rally. I want to say in 1985 or 1986. It was a little bit after you would expect it to run, but like I said, it's a privateer team. The father owns the Fiat dealership, put his son in the car, and they actually did pretty good, 4th overall. So it's a unique little, a unique kit. I'm not sure that they've done that graphics packs before. I think it might be new decals, obviously in a long-standing Hasegawa kit. Over at Aoshima, they've got out their reissue of the Walter Wolf Lamborghini Countach. This, of course, is like a LP 400 with the engine out of the later show car, the LP 500 show car, in a really unique one-off car for the Walter Wolf, organization for Mr. Wolf himself. Of course, Walter Wolf, famous for F1 cars. It's a really good kit. I mean, it's another one of the Countach lines of the supercars as far as the quality goes. And you can see there, the doors open, the trunk opens. You get photo etch in this. It's just a couple pieces of photo etch. It's not a complete photo etch set like the actual common photo etch detail upset. You get basically a couple of logos and stuff like that. And it's sort of a unique car in the sense that it doesn't have the actual real fenders that the 5000 Quattrofocal would have, but it has these sort of like tacked on wheel flares because it has the 5000 Quattrofocal wheels on there. So, you gotta kind of be a Countach fan to actually want another Countach. This actually came out as like the second or third of the supercar series back when it was started in 2012. So, it's an existing kit. Obviously, like I said, it's a reissue, but I think you kind of have to be a Countach fan to really, really, really kind of want another version of it. But who do I know? And then lastly, overseas was the reissue of the all-new tooled Lamborghini Huracan LP6104. This is just a really, really nice model kit. Of course, mine is not here yet, but I've seen the parts runners from somebody who has one, and it is just outstanding, as Aoshima kits have been recently. This does not have opening doors, but it does have two choices of engine covers, either a solid one, similar to what was in that Walter Wolf picture just a second ago, or one with a glass window. It also comes with two choices of wheels, so you do get a free set of wheels in here, no matter what you're doing. It's got also, for the first time in a long time, has a full detail engine, legitimately full detail, has a whole transmission and everything. It's not just the top half of the engine and then an engine plate that fills in the transmission pan on the bottom, like the Aventador and the Countach and whatnot. So it is really just a really nice looking model. And then the other thing came out with it, and I accidentally got mixed into a different set of photos, was this, and this is the detail upset for it. This is a really comprehensive detail upset. You got the regular photo etch in there. You've got some pre-colored photo etch in there. You got seatbelt material in there, and of course you've got these turned aluminum exhaust tips as well. So just a really, really cool looking detail upset. Well worth the like $12 that they're charging you for all that, considering like the model car garage detail upset for the Mobius Ford is almost $20. So I think you're getting a good chunk of value out of that detail upset. And that takes us over to the All Japan Hobby Show. This is basically the big fourth quarter show over in Japan. It's a standard we talked about before. There's two big shows over there, the Shizuoka show and the All Japan Hobby Show. And then you've got a couple of things in China and Malaysia and whatnot to go on during the year. That occasionally things get snuck out here and there. So this is, of course, the big one. And if you notice, I'm not looking at the cameras because I'm loading up a screen in the background so that I don't forget anything. So I beg your indulgence as I go through things here. But there's going to be several new toolkits, and then a couple of modified reissues, and then just your general run-of-the-mill reissues. So starting up at the top here, Tamiya's kit. This is because they've only got the one thing. Tamiya, of course, has the brand new NSX, the 2017 NSX. A unique thing about this is it's going to have the same shipping pattern that the FXXK did, which means the people here in the United States and Canada will probably have their kits on their shelves in the next 2 weeks or so. This is an October release in Japan. It's already shipped from Japan to North America, so oh my, excuse me, that was a burp and a hiccup at the same time there. This is actually has shipped from Japan, and it's on its way. Ironically, the day that Tamiya USA announced this and showed the box art and the two built photos I'm going to show you here in a second, people then started claiming that this was fake box art and the kit wasn't coming and it wasn't real and nobody knew what they were talking about. All right, you be the judge. You tell me if you could Photoshop this. Because obviously you would need the reflection of something to be the bottom of the car, right? And then you would have to have the car itself. And I suppose you could argue that, well, maybe it was a die cast, but no, just stop. Also, the wording is probably too small to actually read, especially if you're on a mobile device here. But it has but the thing that says up there underneath the 124 sports car series is that it has detailed static display model, accurately recreated body shell, authentic recreation of engine and suspension components, metal transfers, and then later on it says built as Honda NSX spec. That's important because this kit will come with Acura logos and left-hand drive. We had mentioned that in passing, and that is confirmed. Of Of course, all of the cars, no matter whether they're being sold here in the United States or North America, rather, and or Europe and or Japan, they're all being built at Marysville, Ohio, with an engine plant in Anna, Ohio, a few towns over. So this is actually a U.S.-built supercar. I understand there's apparently some delays in getting the real cars delivered for some reason, but I've seen one in the wild in the $7,000 extra white pearl paint that it comes in. There's also a set of woven carbon fiber wheels that are optional, that are not the wheels that are on here on the box art. So be interested to see if somebody does those for aftermarket, maybe Playmos or whatnot. And then here are some shots of the built car. These are actual built production units, because like I said, the car has shipped, so it's out there on the ocean or in an airplane or however Tamiya ships to the United States to their own division. And there is the hind quarters. So you get metal transfers for the Honda logos, metal transfers for the Acura logos. Of course, there'll be regular decals in there. Left-hand drive, right-hand drive. Just looks to be a really, really nice kit. It's a relative, with full detail engine, no less. Be a relative bargain at $53, which is the U.S. hobby shop price. You're probably going to be able to get it for less than that from certain places. I got a guy that I buy all my stuff from, who sells his stuff for like cost plus 40%. So it's obviously not going to cost a hobby shop $53 to sell it. It's going to be like probably 40 something, and then they'll do their markups from there. So it might be available mid 40s or abouts, depending on where you can pick it up at and what your hobby shop prices import kits at. But the price over in Japan right now is about $32, and factoring in shipping, it'll still come in $1 or $2 cheaper than buying it on the shelf in the U.S. if you could find a decently priced one. But, of course, you buy one in the United States, you're going to get yours first. Let's see. Also, brand new tooling will be this. I know it's just a 3D rendering, but this is the Platts new hobby BMW M6 GT3. We don't know much about this kit as far as parts or anything else like that, other than what they have said in their little press release, which is that it will faithfully and accurately reproduce all body contours while allowing for ease of assembly. So I don't think that means snap tight kit, but I don't think that means obviously it's going to be like the Fujimi kits where they have metal axles in the back, or maybe not, but it'll most definitely probably be a curbside. I don't want to say most, it definitely will be, and then it'll have an engine in it, because I don't know that part. But it'll be interesting to see how those little winglets up front attach, because that's always been one of the major issues as far as any of the GT3 cars that Fujimi did, the Mercedes, the BMW, or the McLaren. They all have little front spoilers, little front aerodynamic things in front of the front wheels there, and those are always just a real big, huge pain in the ass to get attached after you've painted the model, decaled the model, and now you've got to sit there with CA or something else to try to glue those little wings on and not ruin the paint job that you have down, or mess up your decals. It'd be interesting to see if there's something more to this at the hobby show, as far as maybe parts or description or what they're planning to do with it. I think it's going to get the factory presentation graphics package, and then it'll be interesting to see what comes after that as far as decals go. There are 2 of them right now running in Super GT, or at least there's one of them running at the beginning of the season in Super GT, but I think the Autobox might have changed over to the NSX. But Studi's still running theirs. And then Rowe Motorsports, which used to run Mercedes, switched over to the BMW. I'm trying to think. It was Schubert, and I just sent a bunch of stuff to a friend of mine who does decals, going, look at these cars. There's a couple sets in GT Le Mans. Turner Motorsports is still doing theirs, and there's this one that races at like the 24 Hours of Daytona and races in the American Le Mans series. Why can't I think of these teams anymore? They're just well, anyway, there's about 4 or 5 teams that Studio 27 has existing relationships with, because they've done their decals in the past, and they're all still running BMWs. Rose in addition. So there will be a plethora of aftermarket decals for this. Remember, these are the first seasons for this car, as well as the AMG GT3, so it's only going to go wider spread after that. Walkenhorst, there's another team that that after this car, gets a season to run and see what it can do. It was on the pole at Nuremberg, but of course, the AMG GT3 swept the podium at Nuremberg when it was all said and done with. So, very interested to see more about this kit as time goes along. Now, Hasegawa is going to be doing several kits for the fourth quarter. One of them is another egg girls, as they like to call them, the egg plane girls thing. Another Type 2 delivery van. I don't have a picture of it. Sorry, guys, we're still on this one. But and that is going to have, like I said, just a really wild graphic scheme as far as the decals go. It's probably the closest thing to nudity as you're going to get, with rocks and hands covering strategic places. The next thing they're going to be doing is a modification of their Honda N360. The first one was at N2, and this is going to be the N1. This will be the original first production car that Honda ran. You're going to get a new set of wheels. You're going to get a new dashboard. And there's also a new hood and or bonnet, depending on your choice of phraseology. Now, Hasegawa put like part of an engine in here, like maybe, I don't know, 3/8 of one, basically, so there'd be something behind the grill, because the grill is obviously not molded solid, it's molded, see-through. So there had to be something behind the grill for their, for your vision to catch, so it wouldn't just be a big blank space. And a lot of people, well, why didn't they put a whole engine in here? They took the hood off. And this is an argument I just recently had online with somebody else about why the hood doesn't exist on several B-Max kits. The hood doesn't exist, it's a separate piece, because to make this into an N1 360, there had to be a different hood. So tooling the hood up separately, you'll notice it's on one little part runner all by itself. Tooling that hood up separately keeps them from having to tool an entirely new body shell. I know the guys that watch the show get this, but I would really appreciate it if, the just general hobby out there would understand the way kits are tooled, especially in Japan. But we're starting to see that same tooling legacy here in the United States. They've figured out that, hey, those guys actually know what they're doing over there. We should start following their practices, because like the AMT Snap-Tight 2016 Camaro that has just come out, the chassis is completely separate. It's also a promo-style chassis. I don't think there are any separate parts for it whatsoever. Literally, from the pictures I've seen of it, looks like you shove some metal axles through it, and that's going to be the end of the day. And then there's a very basic interior that's, seats and a dashboard and a steering wheel, and then you have the body that goes together. They've taken the glue kit that's coming out next month in September. Will be used the same body shell and most of the body shell's pieces, because like the grills are separate, which will ease of painting and things like that. And then have the same interior bucket and seats at least. I'm not sure if the steering wheel and the dashboard are the same, because I think the steering column looks like it has turn signals and stuff on it, rather where the Snap-Tight one doesn't. And then of course you get real decals and stuff like that. But the chassis itself, the chassis plate itself, and all of the suspension are completely different, because there is no suspension in the Snap-Tight kit. It's just everything molded to the bottom. And then the engine itself, which is about 11 pieces, then by the time you add on all the accessories and doodads and bells and whistles, it ends up being like 22 pieces. The back suspension is like 20 pieces alone. And by tooling, the one big chassis plate that everything's molded into and putting in the Snap-Tight kit, but using the body shell and all the pieces and the main interior pieces from the Snap-Tight and the glue kit the same, yes, I guess you could argue that it sort of compromises the kit in the sense that, I won't be able to glue my seats in because they're Snap-Tight. Well, really, honestly. But, allowing that to go functions as being able to do two kits in one, out of one, tooling setup, and not having to tool a whole new body for a glue kit, because it'll just, by separating out the pieces and making them Snap-Tight wise, it allows a Snap-Tight kit, somebody who's building a Snap-Tight kit but is in painting stages, to be able to paint stuff separately and not have it, you're not masking off grills that are molded into bodies and stuff like that. So it's a nice touch. And like I said, seeing the way that the Japanese mold things, allowing for various multiple versions by detaching bumpers or detaching hoods or whatever it needs to be, I mean, the Mitsubishi Evo X that Aoshima does, there is a hobby-designed trans kit to put a full detail engine into it. It was never designed to have a full detail engine in it. The reason why the front fascia is separate and there's no hood on it is because the Rally Art, the street car, and the 2C West cars use different front bumpers and hoods. By tooling them separately, all they have to do is just plug and play in the different hoods and front bumpers and not tool an entirely new body shell, which is the way things were done in the past. Rant over, back to Hasegawa. So Hasegawa's last kit and this is going to be actually an all-new tool, and this is a Suzuki Jimny JA11-5 type. Represents a 1991 to 1995 K car, the Suzuki Jimny. Now, this would be after the Suzuki Jimny SA series, which was what we got here as a Suzuki Samurai. So this is a little bit later in life. Now, with a few changes to the grille, the changes to the suspension, because the suspension changes from like a spring, from a regular spring suspension to a coil-over shock suspension. They'll be able to change this into a JA12 Suzuki Jimny, which ran from 95 to 98. With a few parts changes. You're going to get a couple options here that they've talked about already, and that is you can just mount your tire to the back this way, or there is a tire cover. And you have two choices of wheels, a sort of basic-looking 5-spoke and an even more basic 5-spoke steel wheel, just basic transportation wheel, and woohoo! Upgrade. So get 2 wheel options there, and then you get the wheel cover on the back option. It's a neat little thing. I mean, I realize this isn't going to necessarily trip everybody's trigger here in the United States, but it's a really cool thing to have because I really appreciate the variety of things you get out of Japan. It's not all the same thing. Also, Hasegawa is going to be in November and December reissuing their Mitsubishi Lancer GSR Evo 4, their Toyota Celica GT4RC, that is a 6th-gen Toyota Celica rally homogenization. That's the street car you're going to get there. And then the Toyota Corolla 11 GT Apex, which is, I think, a 97 Corolla. Also a rally homogenization special, but a street car. All 3 of those kits were reissued on a limited basis, I want to say 4 years ago. And unless you could find a hobby shop that they were lingering in, because that's where I got my Evo 4, was a hobby shop up north of Pittsburgh that happened to have one sitting there literally for a year and a half. And then right before I left the job I was at that made that place like real close to where I was working, I grabbed it out of there and saved it because it was like just hanging out. Somebody eventually bought the Toyotas before I could get to them, but I got the Evo 4, which is a much better Evo 4 than the Fujimi one. That takes us over to Aoshima, which Aoshima came for your wallet in the fourth quarter. I mean, they're just brutal. I'm going to read from a screen here, so pardon the fact I'm not looking at the camera. But they're going to be reissuing a bunch of their wheel sets. They're going to be making a whole new wheel package set called the Tuned Parts. And so they're reissuing something like 20-some-odd sets of wheels. None of these are new, but some of them haven't been seen for a little while. And, some of them have also been reissued really recently. So it's a mixed bag in that sense. But none of these are necessarily new. They're going to be reissuing their 19-inch SSR Professor MS3s, their SSR Professor SP1s, their SSR Executor CVO1s, and then also you're going to get your VIP Modular VSX 210s, your VIP Modular VSX 110s, your Workmeister S1Rs, your Work Gnosis GS2s, and on the 16-inch side of things, you're going to get a reissue of the P1 Racing, the Volk T37 Gravels, the Longchamp XR4s, and the RS Watanabe 8-spokes. Those are, of course, all wheels that come with the Levin Corolla kits. All of them are still in some of the Levin and Corolla kits. The Watanabes are in the what am I trying to think of? The initial D series, and then the P1s haven't been out in a kit for a while, in the sense of being readily available. I have a early edition Levin that I got, just on a lark. It happened to show up one day in a cleaning inventory at Hobby Search, but it's not a kit that's been out for many years. But that has the P1 Racings in it. The Longships and the Volks have been in various tuner versions of the 11 and the Corolla. They're going to reissue the BBS DTMs, BBS RS2s, and BBS RGs, all in 17-inch, and then also a 17-inch Watanabe 8-spokes. And then they're going to be doing some 14-inch wheels, and these 14-inch wheels have not been around for quite a long time. And these would be the things I'd show you pictures of, because if you watch the show long enough, the wheels, all that wheel information doesn't make any sense to you, granted, but you've also seen them before, and, if I show you pictures, you'll be like, oh, yeah, okay. But they're going to reissue their Hayashi, their Star Shark, their Longchamp XR4s, and their Yayoi wheels. And all of those are some really, really sought-after 14-inch wheels. They're very small. Obviously, they go under, more moderate cars like a Volkswagen Golf or something like that. And they also have had, at least in the past, like stretch wheels or stretch tires for those. Or at least some of them did. I don't know how they're coming. I don't think I'm going to click on a link here and see if they say what the tires are going to be packaged as. But they, in the past, have been extremely, extremely sought after because of that. Nope, doesn't have anything there other than talking about how it's being put into the tune parts thing. But they're very sought after wheels, and they've not been around for a long time. So also Aoshima, let's see here. I'm going to try to see what I got pictures of and what I don't. Also, Aoshima is going to be doing a pre-painted version of their Evo 10 Final Edition, either in red metallic or let's see here. What is this going to be? Red metallic or Phantom Black Pearl. So black or red. The pre-paint kits that Aoshima does are always cool because they pre-paint the entire kit for you. We've talked about it before on various pre-paint reissues. That, of course, means you have to separate it from the runners and not damage the paint. But, again, the whole thing's painted for you, chassis and everything. It's not like a Revell pre-paint where they only paint the body for you. They're going to be doing a Brian James trailer. You may remember that from the February Nuremberg Toy Fair video. That's that British auto transport trailer. It's a single car dual axle trailer. Really, again, wish they would reissue the Range Rover so you have something properly British to pull it with. They're going to be, of course, doing that all new tool Lamborghini Diablo GT. It's just a picture of a real car that I can find so far. Hopefully we'll see some actual, parts runners or more than just a rapid prototype 3D thing that they showed at the hobby show. And then there's going to, of course, be detail upset for that. They're going to be doing a Lamborghini Aventador Super Veloce. Now, this is probably like an 85%er already because the wheels are in the 50th Anniversario kit, and there's also, most of the additional Aero ground package stuff is in the 50th Anniversario. It's just some interior pieces and some exterior pieces, and it'll be ready to go. Now, that's probably of the kits that are coming out of the Supercar series, because there's the Diablo, the Pagani, and the Super Veloce. The Super Veloce is probably the one that will for sure come out this year. The Pagani will also come out for sure in 2016. I just don't know when. They're saying October. I think that's really wildly optimistic. But the Super Veloce, because the Aventador has existed as the coupe, as the Roadster, as the 50th Anniversario. They just need to plug a few parts into it, and it'll be ready to go. Let me see. What else don't I have pictures of that is on this list before I go into the stuff that I do have pictures of? Oh, well, there's the reissue stuff. Put into the model car line, which, of course, is that new boxing series, will be the Daihatsu Copen Ultimate Edition, the Toyota Century L-Type, and the Toyota 86 Corolla Levin GT Apex. That is pretty much the twin to this, only as a Corolla Levin, which has the composite headlights instead of the flip-up ones. But it has the same set of wheels. They're also going to be putting in the Toyota Hilux double-up pickup in its regular street form, not the 4x4 form. And then in the just general sort of reissues, well, these are all sort of, I'm trying to think of, let's see what goes into what category here. The Mazda SA22C RX-7 24 Hours of Daytona 1979 kit. This is pretty much the same kit that Fujimi just reissued a few weeks ago, only this is the IMA version that Aoshima has their hands on. That'll go into the Model Car series, the Nissan KS110 Silvia Super Silhouette, and the Nissan Bluebird KY910 Super Silhouette. Again, these Super Silhouettes are such cool Japanese race cars. You look at them and you get a very quick and clear idea of exactly how some of the styling trends that if in fact Japanese street car styling goes by looking at these cars. I really, really wish they were better models in the sense of their chassis and their racing interiors and stuff like that. But all three of those kits will be also going to the Model Car. On the tuned Model Car series, this is the one that has the rocket bunnies and stuff in it like that. There'll be the Vertex FD3S RX-7, the Veline Toyota Majesta, which is a VIP car, the fabulous Toyota Celsior, that, of course, again, another VIP car, and the Hot Company Toyota Hiace, which, again, is a VIP van. So those will be the reissues, and those will be slotting in over October, November, and December. We'll go into like which ones are which once they sort of finalize the release schedule, because all this stuff just sort of got dumped out, and so much of it is just like, yeah, it's November. Well, it all can't be November. Some of it has to be earlier and later. Well, now, as a modified reissue, they're going to be doing this. This is a Veline tuner series as well, but this is for the new 2012 Toyota Crown Athlete and Toyota Crown Royal. There will be one for both cars. This is obviously a picture of an Athlete, but there will be also one for the Crown Royal Saloon. You get your BBS LMs in here. It's a little more aggressive than, say, the Road Jam, but it's still not as bad as some of the cars go as far as the VIP cars go in my personal eyes. Please don't take offense to that and be all send me, oh, you just hate VIP cars. I don't hate them. I just don't do much for me, and so I don't, deal with them. I don't build them, but it doesn't mean I don't appreciate them. And then they're also going to be doing this. Oops, that's the NSX. This, which is a picture of the real car, a Toyota Crown Royal Saloon with the 2015 facelift. You're going to get probably like 8 or 10 new parts here. It's not a lot, and the front end refreshing. I actually had to sit down with a box to the 2012 one and look at it. But sure enough, yeah, it's a little bit different. The fog light area is a little bit different, and the grill's a little bit different. You're going to basically a front fascia and a rear fascia are the major parts here. But that's going to be coming out. And then this, which is the new Toyota 86, the refreshened Toyota 86. There's a couple of new things about this car as far as the looks of it go. It's a little bit more aggressive in the front end. The real car has like 20 it's 5 extra horsepower and 5 extra foot-pounds of torque or something like that. It's a little bit of extra oomph to a car that really needs it. Puts the horsepower a little over 250 or somewhere in that range, which makes it a little more competitive with other things. It's been the one problem that the 86s have. They're really pretty nice looking cars. They're not particularly fast cars. They look a great deal more sporty than the actual real car does itself. Now, as far as the actual car and why this is a Toyota 86, and I've seen a few people going, oh no, it's an 86, we won't get the American stuff. No, you will. This will have left-hand drive specification. There's a bunch of stuff coming in this kit. Obviously, a new front fascia and the new wheels, as well as there's new side skirts, and some new interior pieces as well. But this will come with left-hand drive, or what they're calling LHD export, but left-hand drive specifications, because for people who don't realize, Scion doesn't exist anymore. Scion is gone. They've closed that dealership chain down. Toyota's decided, you know what, it just doesn't make us any money, and so be it. But that means that the car still continues on, but we'll be getting it here in the United States as the Toyota 86, which is arguably something that should have been done the entire time. But, they wanted to put it in their youth marketing line of the Scion thing. Who am I to argue with the world's largest automaker? But yes, we'll be getting it here in real life as the 2017 Toyota 86. So for first time ever, because they were all Corollas and stuff like that, but first time forever, you'll actually legitimately be able to own a Toyota 86 that you don't have to re-import from Japan. So, I don't know, but I wouldn't be totally shocked if at some point in the future you get the 2017 BRZ, which of course also has some slightly refreshing front ends. They're twins for all intents and purposes. Oh, and that kit will also come with an engine. And then I guess the last thing we really have to discuss in terms of the new stuff, and that is going to be, let me see if I can find it here real quick, the Pagani. So they're showing some test shots of the Pagani here. This is going to be quite a kit in the sense of what it looks like to construct. Notice the front and the back are completely separate. There's basically no body to it at all. So it's going to be a prototypical construction. And that already has people concerned. They're already, how's it going to fit together? I don't know. Time will tell. And if you look at this car in real life, the front bumper, which is this big long piece down here on the bottom, I believe, or that might be the back bumper, but I think that's the front bumper. It's hard to tell because it's upside down, but yeah, I think it's the front bumper, is mounted to the chassis, and the entire front and rear parts of the body hinge. The front body comes forwards like a Corvette hood, and the back part tips backwards. So if they needed to mold it this way, I don't know if the front end's going to tip for real, but of course the back end probably will, because obviously the doors are separate. And also on this sprue are the sort of the top of the shell, so to speak. There's the front and rear window areas. They'll of course be sort of the top of the monocoque that that you're going to build the car from, and then you got some suspension pieces on this one. A lot of the stuff looks very, very delicate. It'll be interesting to see how it plugs into things, so that it'll one of those transfer of weight things of how you'll be able to build it. This right here has, there's some brakes here, and there's some coilover springs on this. The front mirror, the weird long mirrors that are on this car are down here, sort of in the middle. Those two things that look like golf clubs. And then there's a whole bunch of little pieces and parts here. I don't know what hell. Honestly, I'm going to tell you, I don't know what the hell half of this stuff is for. The top right, those are the wheel backs or the mounting parts, because you'll notice the ones to the top right have the little junctions on them for where you would hook the tie rods of the steering wheel work, and then the top left are the brakes, obviously. But what all these, I don't know. We'll have to find out. This here has your basic chassis plate and the basic interior tub, along with the door inners, the center console, a couple other pieces and parts here. I think that thing beside just to the right of the chassis plate is the catch that holds the door hinges in place. And that may be what some of this stuff here is. These might be hinges. We'll have to, I don't know. We'll have to see. This part here has the outer door skins, has the bottom of the body that will also attach to the chassis plate, some little winglets and spats and stuff like that. This one up here has the looks like the transmission, the headlight backs, the bottom of the interior T-top, the back wing, the steering wheel, and a couple other pieces and parts. This is just so many. There's supposed to be 150 pieces to this kit, so it's going to be Fujimi FXXK level as far as the part content goes. And this will be the clear runner, which is sort of shot in a translucent plastic rather than being polished out and clear. And then the one to the left there that's just white, that'll be the chrome runner that has the wheels on it and a bunch of other stuff. So that is what the Pagani is starting to look like. One thing you notice is missing off those runners, there's no seats, and there's no engine. So there's at least two more runners of parts coming with that. And this kit's going to have a full detail engine and a full detail transmission and everything. It's going to be like a standalone engine kind of thing. Again, unlike the ones that are just a top part and a chassis plate. So you guys have demanded full detail engines out of Aoshima, and they're going to be delivering on the next several kits. So please, place your cash appropriately. I think right now, I appreciate anybody who's still watching. This is nearly an hour, but I think right now might be one of the best times to be in the hobby. There's been a lot of arguing about golden ages of this, that, and the other thing, and of course there are a certain number of people on Facebook and modeling forums that exist only to be as miserable as possible and try to make other people miserable with them, that are of course telling you the hobby is dying, the hobby is dying. I want to very quickly, oh by the way, there's going to be a detail upset for the Pagani. Very quickly, just think about this. Pagani, Diablo GT, Diablo GTR, not on this list, but it's going to be in the first quarter of next year. The Diablo, the Aventador Super Veloz. You've got a refreshened Toyota 86, refreshing Toyota Crown. It'll be a refreshing BRZ more than likely. The Toyota 86, by the way, will have the engine. I don't remember if I said that or not. You have the all-new Bronco that's coming out of Revell probably in October. And then you have the all-new 2016 Camaro SS Glue Kit coming out of AMT next month. A whole bunch more reissues from the Malaise era are afoot from Round 2. I don't go into Round 2's advanced stuff because they're really bad on their release dates. So I only tell you guys once they're official. So that's why we only do the Round 2 stuff every month rather than like 3 months in advance. Because I told you what's coming out in the next 3 months. I guarantee you at least a third of it won't make it. You have a new Tool Vans from Fujimi, which may not be your cup of tea, but they're new anyway. You have the new Tool Kai SUV from Hasegawa. You have there's still the Mercury Comet from Mobius. That may or may not be out around Halloween, depending on what the fourth test shot ended up looking like. You have the Bell Kits Opel Manta, as well as the 2015-2016 Polo rally cars, Volkswagen Polo rally cars. You have the Nissan 280 RS, which is actually already out in Hong Kong because Macau, China, Hong Kong, China. So it's already out there, but it'll be out in Japan in the next week or so. And then you have the new Honda livery. You have the BMW M3 that's still coming. You have the Toyota Levin tool that's still coming. You have the newly announced Audi rally car that's coming. There's just so much stuff. Meng's Hummer H1 is supposed to be out in Hong Kong tomorrow. Or not tomorrow, but Monday. Or Tuesday, I can't remember if it was the 29th or the 30th, but whatever it may be, that's right there. And that, of course, is a whole brand new tool kit. There's so many reissues of things, whether you want to do vintage stuff from Round 2 or just some like 80s and 90s stuff from Revell, because you've got the Pro Street Beretta and the Lowrider Cadillac. There's, of course, even though I personally don't particularly care for the way the kits are designed, the 2017 Corvette Stingray coming out of Revell. That's basically an unpainted undecorated pre-paint kit that came out a few months ago, and then the Foose kit that came out even more recently than that, a few months ago. Came out at the beginning of the year. The Foose kit came out a few months ago. Loud Hobby Cat is being loud. And distracting my train of thought because I'm trying to plow through this real quick. But there's just so much stuff to be looking into. And that doesn't even start really going into next year. There's going to be so much stuff in 2017 that we can't even talk about yet. This is certainly, arguably, depending on how you want to look at golden age, is either the second or the third golden age of the hobby. I personally don't think the first golden age was the 1960s because that's when it started. How could you have a golden age when you don't even realize you're in an age yet? The first golden age is like 85 to 98. That chunk of time there, and then this is the new the third golden age of hobby, and I think this one probably has a good 10 to 15 year run on it, despite the overwhelming claims of death from certain quarters of the hobby from people who are becoming more and more aware of their own mortality, I would suppose. The one thing, and the reason I think this is going to go on for a while and isn't just a flash in the pan, is, despite the fact that, you arguably, the U.S. hobby is dying. The U.S. hobby isn't dying. It's nowhere near as large as it was. Let's just get the Hobby Cat up here because him's going to throw a fit if he doesn't get to be in this video. The hobby, everybody came in when the hobby started in the 1960s. Everybody was in it. Everybody was in it. Models were $1. Paint was $0.25. We just built everything. We blew it up with M80s. We had a grand time of our lives. But then the hobby went through a really big depression in like the 70s and the early 80s. First of all, the cars in real life stunk. Let's face it. Nobody really wants a Pacer. Get a little bit of nostalgia having that kit back out, but it's still a Pacer or a Gremlin or whatever. The cars of the 1970s were just nothing to be appealed with. But also the other thing is that all of those guys who built models in the 1960s, they were out of the hobby. They went to Vietnam. Some never came back. They went to college. They just got a trade. They got houses and cars and wives and kids, and they were out of the hobby for 10 to 15 years until they came back in the 1980s and the 1990s in droves. This is when you saw the resurgence of Monogram and the resurgence of Revell, even though by that point they'd already merged. And you saw MPC get absorbed by Ertl, who had already bought AMT, and became AMT Ertl. And those two companies just really, really chugged along and had a really good stretch of time there. And what was the other thing that happened during that time? Well, it's people like me, my age. We came into the hobby because we were kids. All of those guys who were in the hobbies as children in the 1960s, well, they had kids. And they got their own kids involved in the hobby. Because for all the talk of people going, well, I really wish there were more kids in the hobby. What, do you get your own kids into it? No, I don't have kids, or they're all girls because, girls can't build cars. Or, they didn't like it. Not this hobby not for everybody. Perfectly understandable. But the general gist is, a bunch of us did take it up. And a bunch of us took it up really bad. But, by the mid-1990s, all of the kids of the guys who came back into the hobby, well, they went to school. Some went to Desert Storm. Some of them, just in the military in general, college, trades, jobs, kids, houses, cars, blah, 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 blah. And then in 2008, what happened? Well, that's 15 years later, and all of us guys who are in our 30s and 40s were coming back into the hobby in droves. When you go onto any forum and you look at the introduce yourself section, the people that are constantly coming in, for the most part, yeah, you're still getting your 50s and your 60s guys who were, wow, the hobby really does still exist at this point. But, most of the people coming in are 30s, 40s, or maybe, and skewing a little bit younger. If you want to get kids into the hobby, well, you're going to have to, first of all, just put down your fuddle-duddle stick and stop yelling at people to get off your yard. Because I saw somebody recently demanding that Mobius release a 64 Comet before they die. I'm going to die soon if you don't release this model, kid. I'm 64, blah, blah, blah. Apparently, I don't know, he's going to retire and drop dead, I guess. But you have to appreciate what kids are into now, which, again, that involves dropping your fuddle-duddle stick. Tuners may not be your cup of tea. Just you may hate everything about it, but that is what modern hot rodding is. Because, yeah, there's a certain amount of people that are still, hot rodding Chevelles and all that stuff, but that stuff costs a lot of money right now. Go buy me a GTO any year from the 64 to 72, and, when you come back, we'll talk about how much that cost you, because it's not a $100 car anymore. But you know what costs a couple $100? A Honda, an old Nissan, stuff like that. Of course, there's a major Japanese, import scene anyway, but this is what modern hot rodding is. When people who build import kits, and I don't mean like just totally Japanese kits of Japanese cars, but just, supercars, sports cars, anything that's not, a hot rod gasser, you guys project that attitude. It's not here on YouTube. Don't get me wrong. I'm not picking on anybody here, but you see it in real life in model shows, model clubs. You also see it all over forums and all over Facebook and other social media. It's not even a majority of people who feel that way, but it is a very loud, exceptionally cranky, overly dramatic group of people that have to have that, it's a stupid fart can exhaust Honda. Doesn't matter if the model's good, bad, or indifferent. We're going to pick on it because of what it is rather than whether or not it's good. And when you guys project out that vibe of non-inclusiveness, of we don't like this because it's not what I build, people get that vibe, and they don't publicly talk about it. You look at Japan, you look at Malaysia, Indonesia, Philippines, stuff like that. They have these massive model car meets. They're not contests like we have here in the United States. It's various model clubs and groups of guys getting together, basically buying tables and setting up giant club displays. And then everybody goes around and compliments each other on their work and what great this is. And you know what? Most of those guys build circles around a lot of the builders here in the United States, just the average run-of-the-mill guys. Because it's a more supportive environment, first of all. It's a much more supportive environment as far as what you build. I mean, guys do not pigeonhole themselves into one thing over there. For all the Japanese model kits there are, you'd be shocked how many Japanese guys buy American kits and build American hot rods, build American muscle cars, and things like that. And again, usually way better than anyone here in the United States is building it. There's a pride and craftsmanship thing, and it's certainly a camaraderie in the hobby thing that we don't have here, because everyone wants to section themselves off here. That's how you end up with clubs like Diversified Scalers running their own shows and stuff like that, because those group of people building those group of cars, they're having a Honda meet at the show, so to speak, and then, you know, all the, and they well, they're not a tuner club, I don't want to pigeonhole them that way, but let's face it, they're known for building more modern, more Japanese-style cars for the most part. Well, they don't feel welcome in a regular model club, so they got to go start their own, and ha-ha, joke's on you, old farts, it's successful, because there's a way to be inclusive in what they enjoy. They don't sit around and hate on your 65 Belvedere. They don't sit around and crap on your rat rod, but you crapped on all their stuff, and they had to go do their own thing. You want to see more kids in the hobby? You got to be more accepting of what the kids in the hobby want to build, first of all. I'm not talking about like kids like me. I'm a young whippersnapper to some people, but I'm talking about, you know, young kids. There are young kids all over the internet, all over Facebook. There's nothing but young 20-year-old guys building models. And you know what? For the most part, not a lot of them are building older stuff. They're building newer stuff, be it Japanese kits or supercars or just modern sports cars like Mustangs and Camaros and stuff like that. I know that, you know, for the American kit manufacturers, they still have to know which side their bread is buttered on. And I'm not saying, and I have never advocated for just dumping everything that, you know, is an older car, because, hey, I want one of those new Broncos just as much as anybody else does, but it's an acceptance level. When the new cars coming out of Revell are pre-painted, unassembled promotional models, for lack of a better term, with like a 5-piece engine, that's disrespecting your future builders. You want to have kits out there for young people, but then you don't want to give them real model kits, but you give their dad and their grandfather, you know, some 120-piece, hot rod, and expect them to not look at that. But, at any rate, through all that stuff that I just listed, that doesn't cover the Revell of Germany McLaren 570 or the McLaren AMG GT street car. So there's 2 more modern sports cars, modern supercars coming out as well that just popped into my head. So many new tools, so many new kits, and not all of it is old, not all of it is new. It's really, really a good blend of stuff in the fourth quarter. I like where we're at in the hobby. I realize not everybody will, but I like where we're at in the hobby. I think the majority of people like where we're at in the hobby. So, hobby is not dead. Hobby is international. You need to understand that. Hobby is international. It's not just, you know, American anymore. It is international. It has gone well beyond the borders here. And now, with the first generation of modelers in the hobby and the second generation of modelers coming back into the hobby, we are all now focusing, I think, because some of us are concerned about where the hobby is going, focusing on the third generation of the hobby, which for me, they're still too young. They're 5 and 3. But it's going to be those grandparents and them grandparents, fathers, uncles, cousins, whatever, that are in the hobby right now. They're going to go and they're going to get the next generation of hobby modelers that are, you know, in preschool and kindergarten right now. We're going to be rolling them into the hobby as they, you know, get along here. And I think that's why you have a 10 or 15-year good run. The older guys, eventually, they're going to have to bow out. Not because they're dead, but because, you know, it's a fine motor skill hobby and, you know, it's just the facts of life. The guys my age will go, you know, marching along for the next 10 to 15 years, well, really 20 years, because those guys who are my age, we can't retire till we're 70 in the first place to get Social Security, if it exists in 20 years. But, you know, we've got 15, 20 years to go along, and then the new kids will have, you know, 10, 15 years before they go off to college and cars and all that stuff. So it's a good place to be right now, and that's where I'm going to leave it. So anyway, I appreciate anybody who really stayed along for the whole rant here at the end. Hopefully we'll be on a regular show that isn't quite so wordy next week. I probably should have done that last part as a separate video, but you know what? You guys get extra bonus content because you didn't get a video 2 weeks ago. Anyway, we hope you have a good weekend, and August is running out. We've got about a half dozen Japanese kits to come out maybe in the next 3 days, and then we're into September. So September video coming up Thursday, Friday, and we'll see you guys on the other side.